Chapter 7. I didn't stay in bed for long. First, someone had been in our house, in this very room, looking through all my things. Maybe even sat on the bed I'm lying in now. It shook me up more than I wanted to admit, and even living with 2 cops didn't make me feel completely safe anymore. Then there was the investigation. How was I going to sleep with about 800 different things running around inside my head? Basically, I had 3 ideas about why someone might have done this. 1, it was one of those people who had already decided Dad was a dirty cop. 2, it was just some random burglary, the kind that happens all the time everywhere. 3, it had something to do with Gabe. I know that sounds crazy, and I didn't even know what the connection might be, but it just seemed like a pretty big coincidence that this happened 3 days after he disappeared without a trace. Maybe he was kidnapped by the same people who robbed our house, or maybe Gabe was even involved somehow. Dad always told me never to rule out possible connections. I shook my head. The Gabe I knew was a good kid. He never so much as lied about anything, so the idea of him doing this was a definite long shot. If it was true, it had to be for a really desperate reason. Meanwhile, it was coming up on 2 a.m, but Dad and Bree were still downstairs. A second detective had shown up, and they were all talking in low voices. Whatever their secret was, it had to be something big. And the longer it went on, the more I wanted to know what it was. I got out of bed and snuck into the hall to see what I could find out. In my house, there's a few secrets only I know. Like, for instance, if you stick to the left side of the stairs and put your weight on the banister, you can keep them from creaking the whole way down. And then, if you sit on the 5th step from the bottom, you can hear what people are saying in the living room without anyone knowing you're there. And what I heard next blew my mind. "Did you already call this in to the desk, Sergeant?" Detective Willingham asked. "Yeah," Dad said. "Reported and registered." "You said it was a Glock 19 and a Glock 22. Is that right?" the new detective asked. "That's right," Bree answered. "Alex still carries a 19. The 22 is mine. They're both secured, but it wouldn't take much to get inside those lock boxes with the right tools." Now my head was spinning. Whoever had robbed us hadn't just gotten away with a few electronics. They'd stolen 2 guns, too. Police weapons. Which is even less like Gabe than ever. I could barely imagine him breaking into a house, much less carrying on a couple of real Glocks. And now they're out on the street somewhere, Dad said. God only knows what'll happen to them next. Well, don't beat yourself up about it, Detective Olyankas told him. "It's not like you were going to bring your duty weapons to church." "Even so, this will be public information by tomorrow," Dad said. "Somebody's bound to pick up on it. I've got more reporters on my butt these days than a dog has fleas." I didn't mean to laugh at that, but Dad caught me off guard. It was just a little laugh, but enough to bust me if I wasn't careful, so I stayed low and started back up the steps as stealthily as I could go. Then, when I heard Dad get up and starting to come my way, I turned around like I was just heading down for the first time. Smooth. I know. "Dude," he said when he saw me, "you're supposed to be in bed." "I can't sleep," I told him. "It's Christmas." "Exactly, Dad." He just smiled at that. I think maybe he was taking it easy on me with the robbery and everything that happened. "Just tell me what's going on," I said. "Don't you worry about it." "Come on, Dad. There must be something you can tell me." I didn't mention the guns because I didn't want him to know how much I'd heard. Dad took a deep breath. Then he came halfway up the stairs, met me in the middle, and we sat down right there. "Here's as much as I'll say," he told me. "Our house wasn't the only one that got hit tonight. There were 4 other break-ins around the neighborhood. I don't know what I was expecting to hear, but it wasn't that. Again, my mind went right back to Gabe. Could he have done all this? Not likely, but not impossible. Some part of me hoped there was a chance anyway. At least then, it would mean that he was still around and that something even worse hadn't happened to him. At the same time, it also meant this probably wasn't done by one of those random people who hated Dad so much for what had happened with Mr. Yang. Otherwise, it would have just been our house that got robbed and not a whole string of them. That was worth something anyway. "Is there any kind of pattern to the break-ins?" I asked. The first thing they do with this kind of case is look for patterns, like if the robber had gone in through the back at every house or stolen the same kind of stuff each time. "That's all you're getting," Dad said. "Now scoot." "Where were the other houses?" I asked. "Was it anyone we know?" "Good night, Ollie." "Dad," I tried again. "Ollie," he said. He just switched over to his enough voice, which is basically like the sound of a big red stop sign. I knew I wasn't getting any more after that, so I said goodnight and took myself back to bed. Not that I expected to get any sleep. I opened my copy of the Parker Inheritance to read for a while, but I just stared at the pages instead. I was too caught up putting all these different pieces together, and I was starting to realize something. Between Dad's trial and the break-in at our house and the stolen police weapons, he was going to have less time to think about Gabe's case than ever before. Bree, too. In other words, this was on me now. Not that I thought I could out-cop the cops, but if I didn't at least try, and then if something really bad happened to Gabe, I was going to wonder for the rest of my life if there was something I could have done. I didn't just want to help anymore. Now I needed to, whatever it took.